The overseas portion of the 2025 MotoGP season is done. Now we're back to Europe for the final 2 races of the season. This is the Race MotoGP Podcast. I'm stand-in host Val Khorounzhiy, with me, Simon Patterson. We're giving Matt a bit of time off. You may know about this MotoGP season that the title fight is done. The fight for runner-up, if you care about that sort of thing, is done. The fight for the Teams Championship is done. The fight for the Manufacturers Championship is done. The Rookie of the Year fight is done. The Moto2 title fight, very good, but we're not going to be talking about that today. Maybe we should be, but we're not. So that is a terrible intro for a podcast that I want you to keep listening. However, what is true here is that there are still things to watch for. It is our job today, in these however many minutes this will last, to convince you to look at some interesting stuff beyond just the race outcomes. And I'm sure the races can be quite good. There's going to be 4 of them across the Premier class. Even if Simon doesn't like Valencia, Simon does like Portimao, I believe, as a racetrack. So as a racing
as a concept,
safety as a concept, yeah, sure, with the undulations and stuff like that. There's a bit of breaking news, and we'll go into that in a second. Nicolo Bulega picked as the stand-in for Marc Marquez for the final 2 races of the season at the factory Ducati team. Before we go into that, you may be listening to this on your podcast platform of choice, or you may be listening to this on YouTube and hopefully watching the video. Hopefully the video recording works. Technical issues have been kind of a late season bane. I guess the equipment is tired. The equipment is,
We've gone full Aprilia 2023.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah,
Sorry,
I think we know each other too well at this point, or we have like 3 jokes and we use them all over and over and over again. But you may be listening to this on the Race Members Club Patreon. And if that's the case, we have free week running right now. Yes, thanks. Absolutely. Thanks also, even if you're taking part in this as part of the free week, which is running Wednesday to Tuesday, covering the Portimao MotoGP weekend and the Interlagos Brazilian Grand Prix, or as they call it, Sao Paulo Grand Prix, Formula One weekend. We're going to try to hold up our end of the bargain on the 2-wheel side of things and come up with some interesting content during free week that will hopefully, entice other people who may not realize yet they like this kind of content on the regular. So what will we have, Simon? We'll do, the 2015 Revisited series season finale is coming up in from Valencia. We've recorded that already. I think it was quite a nice episode, a lot of fun.
Which has been tons of fun to do.
Yeah, and it's just
even though I didn't want to do 2015 because it was going to get me in trouble. I feel like it's not got me in as much trouble as I expected.
Well, yeah, the Valencia part hasn't come out yet, and we're still then going to do some season wrap. But the Valencia episode is part of the free week, and also as part of the free week, we're going to do some stuff from Portimao, assuming everybody's travel works out okay.
Assuming your travel works out, because I'm going to get there. I get to every race. That is fundamentally a thing.
Yeah. And I'm a lot more of a calamity, generally speaking, in terms of just
you said it, not me.
Any plans whatsoever. But yeah, we're going to do some stuff from the paddock, check-ins from way to the track, way from the track, sort of analogous to the stuff we do in F1. Just should be fun. Hopefully, we'll open up a bit more as to what happens on the weekend than we normally have the capacity to do. So that should be a lot of fun. But all right, the promo part is done. Nicolo Bulega, Ducati factory MotoGP rider for 2 rounds. Simon, we discussed this prospect a little bit, and I think we were unconvinced because of the scheduling, because we weren't sure how long Marc Marquez would be absent. And certainly Bulega did not do it for Phillip Island. He did not do it for Sepang. He wanted a test. Ducati was happy to acquiesce and arrange a private test for him at Jerez, I believe.
I think that they had one booked in already. I think he got lucky with the timing because Michele Pirro was already on way to that. So I think more he got lucky than,
Yeah, but that test reporting suggests went pretty reasonably, although you can't read into the lap times from a test particularly well, unless they're way off. It sounds like they were not way off. Before we go into what we expect from Bulega for these 2 weekends, which will be kind of a difficult conversation given the nebulous state of stand-in riders these days and what you can actually expect from them and what the experience deficit means. How did Nicolo Bulega ended up in this situation? Simon, what can you tell us about the rider who we always thought was going to end up here one day for a bit, and then we thought would never end up here once he flamed out in Grand Prix racing?
So Bulega's career is a bit of a weird one in that he came into Moto3 probably as like one of the next big things.
Yeah.
Because he'd really kicked ass in what was then, I think it was still CEV
Yes.
Moto 3 as opposed to the junior GP class before it got renamed. He'd come into that off a really, really strong year and turned up in Moto 3. Everyone was like, this kid's going to be, the next big Italian thing. And then unfortunately for him, he kind of became the next big Italian thing by having a growth spurt. And his Moto 3 career never really clicked because of that.
I mean, he was exceptional in his rookie year, I would say.
He was very, very good in his rookie year, but then it just didn't work, did it?
Absolutely.
I mean, part of it was that he was inside the VR46 team, which it's weird with the benefit of hindsight. That team maybe it wasn't the be all and end all. It wasn't what we thought it was looking back, because a lot of people flamed out in that team.
Yeah.
They definitely, like the big VR46 Academy success stories, with the exception of Pecco Bagnaia, didn't come from that team. They came from riders who were put into other teams because there was no room for them there, really. Whenever you look at the Marco Bezzecchis, whenever you look at the Franco Morbidellis of the world, they came a different route. So Bulega then went to Moto 2, and again, it just didn't work, which is the thing. Like, people go to Moto 2 and it doesn't work. That's a fairly regular thing for a lot of people. Got very quickly booted out of the VR46 program, as they tended to be around that time. They were quite mercenary at that time, where a lot of people who people thought had potential didn't last very long. Thinking of Lorenzo Salvatore Lorenzo Baldassarri is the other one, who kind of won 4 races and within a year was basically on his way out because it didn't come together. So him and Bulega ended up in the Superbike paddock together. Bulega jumped onto a Ducati World Supersport machine just as the World Supersport rules changed, and it became the bike to have, and dominated a championship win there. Went to Superbikes as a factory rider, and has essentially been the only person this year that's been able to run with Toprak, including teammate Alvaro Bautista, who was nowhere near Toprak, nowhere near Bulega. So I think there's an argument that he has absolutely done what he needs to do to kind of warrant at least this new system that he's in now, where he's, because of his Pirelli experience in Superbikes, where he's going to be the kind of the joint test rider next season alongside Michele Pirro, to bring a bit of Pirelli knowledge to the development for 2027 and whenever they come to MotoGP. But I still don't know if there's a long-term MotoGP future for him. And I think that this is more a test, or more a wildcard appearance or an injury replacement appearance that we're seeing, because A, you kind of want to give him a bit of MotoGP race experience for next year in his testing role, and B, because he deserves a bit of a reward because he put up a good fight this year in Superbikes and did it in a fairly magnanimous way without much... without the complaining that Alvaro Bautista did on the other side of the garage all year. So I think it's a combination of those things. He's probably not going to be a MotoGP rider full-time at any point, is the reality of it, because he's now 26, 27 years old. So you would imagine he is 26 last week. So you would imagine that he's going to be unlikely to end up in a MotoGP ride at 27, 28, which is when there's next space in the grid. But I mean, he's going to win a Superbike title in 26 without Toprak around, unless there's a dramatic shake in things. He's in a pretty good position, and it's good that Ducati still reward people who probably deserve rewards.
It's kind of like a store brand version for now. We don't know how this is going to develop, of the Fabio Quartararo story. Almost beat for beat, he succeeded Quartararo as the CEV Moto3, which is now junior GP title. He, like Quartararo, had a very good first Moto3 season. Then, like Quartararo, really found it difficult. Or it's just like sort of the same beats, just slightly with more, I don't know how to put it, Italian flair for the dramatics going on around it, seemingly. And it's easier to buy into the idea of Bulega now because that early season, that initial burst exists. Like, honestly, it was with Quartararo. You looked at Quartararo in 2019 when he suddenly became a superstar overnight, and it was so much easier to understand and accept because everybody went like, oh yeah, when he was a 16-year-old, he was like the best 16-year-old on the planet. He was incredible. So it's easy to understand where this comes from. But I think you can pick bones a bit with what Bulega has achieved in the World Superbike paddock, which is not to say that it hasn't been very, very, very good and very important, that he's not the overwhelming favorite coming into the title race next year, that he did spectacularly to hang with Toprak Razgatlioglu over these 2 seasons, really, particularly this season. I mean, Toprak still had a bit more, but Bulega put up a fantastic fight. Without Bulega, it would have been the worst season of all time, completely.
It would have been a terribly boring season. Yeah.
If you look at some of the stats, like they first and second, they occupied like for 90% of the season. Nobody else even comes close. Wherever they start, wherever they're on the grid,
12 rounds, 3 races each round. So 36 races. Yeah. And Bulega goes off the podium 4 times.
Yeah. And like a couple of those were the engine going.
Yeah.
So it was that kind of season. People will say, of course, that his arrival, because he succeeded Alvaro Bautista as the main Ducati guy right away. Mm-hmm. It was basically
he won his first race. He won his first Superbike race.
They brought him in at the end of out of the Supersport title, as you mentioned, and it coincided with I believe the introduction of the weight rule that Alvaro Bautista is so unhappy about, that Alvaro Bautista is currently in the process of doing an online petition about. If you want, go look that up, sign that if you feel like signing it.
The flip side of it is that Bulega probably benefited from that.
Yes, because he's
a bigger guy. He's a bit taller. He's a bit bigger.
Yeah, reasonably sized rider. But there's also the other explanation there that Alvaro Bautista is, 40 now? So it would have been closing up on 40 at that point. That's normally where, if you're somebody big, you got to be beating a 39, 40-year-old Alvaro Bautista. And Nicolo Bulega accomplished exactly that, but with the weight break. I'm less pessimistic about his MotoGP chances than you are, but I think this is why I think these upcoming rounds are actually much higher stakes than modern MotoGP stand-ins almost ever tend to be. Like the only comparable ones in the past 5 or 6 years I can think of, where you have a guy who I do believe has genuine ambition to be on this grid, and I think a non-zero chance. If Ducati is sufficiently impressed with what it sees, you have to go to Johan Zarco when he did the LCR Honda stand-in rides for the injured Taka Nakagami, I believe, when he was kicked out of KTM for being grumpy. And you have the Jake Dixon, Petronas Yamaha, very brief handful of races.
The other one I would probably put in the same category, given where he was at the time, would have been Iker Lecuona's LCR Honda rides.
Yes, but I think this is more just the pedigree is different here in terms of what. And Iker Lecuona, by the way, is Nicolo Bulega's new teammate in Ducati World Superbikes. Yeah, but yeah, I think the pedigree is different. I think if he does something ever so slightly eye-catching, because it's less relevant, because it will be the Michelin tires. It's not even like his upcoming gig at Ducati is to prepare it for the Pirelli era as a test rider for MotoGP more than anything. But if he does something eye-catching that shows like an affinity for the format, an affinity for the size of the machinery, all those things, like if he shows something intangible that you notice a little bit, I think that will go a long way for Ducati to then start putting in like the seeds of ideas with its customer teams for 27. And, hey, can you give our World Superbike guy a shot? So that's why I think 26 is a lot. By MotoGP age, it's a lot, but it's not unthinkable, I believe.
The weird thing about it is I think that this is going to be one of those wildcard appearances where whether or not he impresses is not going to be something that you or I are immediately going to know by looking at results.
Yeah,
I think whether or not he impresses is going to come out in conversations with people like Gigi Dall'Igna once they've had a chance to look at his data 100%. And to understand what they're seeing rather than where he is, because it's both incredibly difficult in modern MotoGP to perform on a short notice. Like no one is expecting him to do a Troy Bayliss and come in and win things, because that's just not possible. In modern MotoGP. I don't think it's impossible, but
you need rain.
You need circumstances. Yeah. But then that's what I was going to say. The flip side of that is that also in modern MotoGP, we have these weird circumstances where Dani Pedrosa gets in the podium in a sprint race in Jerez because conditions are weird. So this is not going to be one to decide that he either needs to be a MotoGP rider in 2026 because he's fighting for the podium in a sprint, or that he should never touch a MotoGP bike again because he's 10 seconds off the pace and last. It's such a weird season. It's even more of a weird season if you're riding a Ducati GP25, as we've seen. So it's going to be, it's quite good that he's riding at the last 2 rounds, because there is traditionally on Monday in Valencia a MotoGP media debrief with Gigi Dall'Igna, and I'd imagine that will be one of the topics that we'll explore once we get a bit of time with Gigi. What does he see from Bulega's 2 weekends of performance?
Yeah, I think that the reasonable band of performance is it's going to be somewhere between what Pirro was doing in these 2 stand-in rounds as Marquez's stand-in, which was not much. Michele Pirro is not the youngest rider anymore. He doesn't have a lot of race practice on these MotoGP bikes. He was just there to sort of take care of the machinery and do some development work. And between, obviously, the upper band, which is not a reasonable expectation, is the Pol Espargaro KTM stand-in rides, which are incredible. If he somehow beats that, he's got a contract for MotoGP tomorrow, next year. I don't think that's particularly realistic. For me, and this is like throwing darts into the ocean, as I like to say. But for me, if he's flirting with Q2 at all at any point, that's like, I'm noticing that. That's for me a pretty important deal. There's one point, because I've seen it brought up multiple times when I do some pointless social media perusing, as I tend to do. Some people were like, "Oh, is this to put pressure on Pecco Bagnaia?" It is not.
No,
it is absolutely not. No. If Pecco Bagnaia is somehow in the same lap time range as Nico Bulega, he has much bigger issues than Nico Bulega being present.
Yeah. No, I mean, even if this is one of those disaster weekends for Pecco, he's not going to be measuring himself against Bulega in any way or form. It's just going to be a thing that's happening aside to whatever is happening with Pecco again.
Yeah, it would only be like, I don't know, the cherry on top or whatever. It's not. Yeah. Ducati is not thinking about that. Ducati is not thinking to compare Bulega against Bagnaia. These are not. Ducati has enough riders to compare Pecco Bagnaia to, if that's its primary goal, riders who actually have relevant MotoGP experience. All right, now let's talk about some regulars. Obviously, we're going to have a lot of eyes on Nicolo Bulega during these 2 rounds, but also I think even though all the important championship stuff is wrapped up, there's a handful of riders who should treat this as a major extension of their 2026 preseason already, basically, because when it comes to contracts, when it comes to deciding futures, the 2026 season is not as long as it will feel. It's not as long as the calendar says it is. In terms of future contracts, it's 5 or 6 rounds.
Yeah.
So any right foot you can start off of now is very important, I think, for all of these guys. Although I realize now that this is not a good intro, because we're going to start, it's going to be 5 names, but we're going to start with a guy who is under 2027 contract, so it's not as important. However, I think because of the roller coaster-ish, I don't know, is it a roller coaster if it goes up and then it goes down, and then that's basically it? It's a roller coaster with one.
I mean, yes, I've been on that roller coaster.
Have you? Where?
Yeah. It's an Alton Towers. It's called Oblivion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Fun?
Yeah. No, it is actually. But yeah,
okay,
you have basically described Oblivion at Alton Towers. There's a very niche British reference for everyone.
The only Oblivion I know is the Elder Scrolls video game. Anyway, Johan Zarco. I don't know if he's played Oblivion. I suspect not, although...
Or been to Alton Towers.
Which MotoGP rider is likeliest to have played Oblivion or been at that roller coaster? Okay, no. If I do get to Portimao, I might ask.
You should ask all of them what their favorite video game is.
Yeah, then my accreditation is going to get yanked for.
No, there's enough of them that are interested in that question. Marco Bezzecchi frequently plays Clash of Clans on his phone while waiting for media debriefs.
I don't want to say that's not a video game, but I wouldn't say that doesn't boost his gamer cred. This is not a topic I should be getting into. I'm going to make myself unpopular as a video game
everyone,
gatekeeper.
Just with everyone.
Yeah. Well, join the club.
Yeah. I'm going to do a race in NASCAR 25 after this.
Nice. The iRacing developer one?
Yeah, which is surprisingly good fun.
Yeah. Anyway, Johan Zarco is the rider we're going to talk about, because his season has been complicated, and it's not, I don't think it's out of the woods yet. I think there's still a bit of a concern going on, and it might just be me being annoyingly ageist when it comes to sports, which sort of is a thing I struggle to fight off sometimes. But when you see a rider who's, mid-30s and there's like a blip of performance, and you're like, is this going to be recoverable to the previous peak, or are we now in the sort of decline phase of his career where sometimes that extra bite is just gone and you're still a capable, reasonably dependable performer in weekend, but just you lose the extra bite of pace. But for Zarco, it's more, I would not actually describe him as a regular and dependable performer, weirdly enough, which is not to say that he has been in any shape or form bad for Honda. Even taking the recent streak that has not been impressive generally as a whole, he's a massive success for Honda as a signing that will never change. But there's still the feeling that, he overperforms in qualifying relative to his base pace and then struggles a bit in races. But both of those things have come down relative to the other Hondas. The other Hondas has taken a step forward, and Zarco, even now upgraded to the most recent Honda, has still not recovered the kind of edge he had over Luca Marini and Joan Mir over one lap, and he's worse than them in race pace. So I'm a little like, that's a mental tick for me, these final couple of races. I want to see if he can set himself right with more time with this new package.
Exactly that. He keeps saying that he just needs time. He keeps saying that people have asked about going back, and he refuses point blank. Says that the solution is not going back to the old bike; it's making this one work because this is better. And you would imagine that this is kind of an intermediate step to what's coming for next year. Anyway, a bike that we've already heard a few whispers and rumors about that is really good, according to legendary MotoGP hype man Aleix Espargaro, who's been testing it and says it's phenomenal.
But also Luca and
Johan. Marini and Mir are also
and
saying, and Zarco are also saying the same thing. So he needs to get with his program because it's the path to the future. It's where it's delivering to. He has traditionally been a bit of a slow adapter. I'd argue that Zarco has never been the first one to be fast on something.
The exception being the very well-honed Yamaha that he started his career on.
Yeah, okay, fair point. But I'll give you that. But riding Yamaha as a rookie at that point was a very different situation. That was the rookie bike, wasn't it? It was the bike that every rookie performed on. But he's, he took a bit of time with, the KTM never worked. He took a bit of time with Ducati. He took a bit of time with Honda. It's never been... He's not been one of those guys that just jumps on a bike and is fast. So, and I think that it's probably a testament to how different this bike is, that it's taken him this much work. That it's a bike that needs to be rode in a bit of a different way, that has different strengths and weaknesses to the previous iteration of the machine. But it's Johan Zarco. It's not just gone away. We know, because we've seen it over and over again in all the weird situations he's found himself in. It doesn't just go away. And it is just a case of how quick he finds it. But he does need to find something before the season ends. He needs to be in a better position going into preseason, even if only for his kind of his own confidence and his kind of standing within Honda to make sure that everything arrives, whenever they're drawing up a testing plan for Sepang, that he's an equal partner in that testing program. He needs to finish this season looking a bit stronger than he has so far.
The contract will say certain things about the spec, but ultimately that stuff is always primarily not conditioned. It's always conditioned by what you're doing on track. At a certain point, if you're not performing, you yourself know you don't have a leg to stand on.
Even then, there will be wording within the contract that allows Honda to be as mean to him as they want, and we know that because we saw it with Cal Crutchlow, who was on a contract that said he got equal machinery to the factory guys, and then what we would see happen is that the factory guys would get it at the Valencia test and would use it all through Sepang and all through Lucille for testing, and then Cal would get it on the Saturday of round one. There are ways and means of making this stuff happen. That, and I'm not saying Honda will do that to be vindictive, but just because of production and workload and the amount of time it takes to fabricate stuff, he will not be a priority if he's not fast.
They could give everybody identical sorted bikes immediately. They would every time.
Exactly. But similarly, if Joan Mir is still on the podium every weekend, they will give him two of something before they give him and Zarco one each. That's just...
Especially as Johan Zarco himself has repeatedly made the point that having two bikes of different spec on his side of the garage is not great for preparing. Yeah. And it leads me to two annoying thoughts, and I've already forgotten one of them, so that's not great. But I'll go straight into the other, the very, very annoying one, because I don't like to be that guy. But I don't know. I feel some sort of way about this 2-year deal suddenly. because he is not the youngest rider, and because I think every seat that Honda can make available for 27 for somebody is kind of at a premium. So if suddenly the guy is not performing, that I don't want to call it an albatross contract. I want to say it's suddenly not optimal. Where it was optimal when you signed it, but suddenly you start to have a little bit of question as to who you could make that seat available for. Imagine if you have to phase out Luca Marini out of the lineup, and you're desperate to keep him because you like his acumen, you love the feedback. He's been an asset in developing this much improved Honda, and then suddenly, because you need to fill your lineup with stars, you can't keep him because you have Zarco under contract. Alberto Puig, the Honda team manager, spoke to SpanishMotorsport.com in an interview, and they asked him a couple of questions about the Zarco renewal with sort of the slant of, isn't it unusual that the guy under the long-term deal is the old guy? And they didn't even mention the fact that he's not doing so well at the track right now. And to which both of Puig's answers were, I had nothing to do with that deal. That deal was all Japan. It's not amazing that, I don't think Alberto Puig is... He's not saying that because of the results. He's just saying that because he's Alberto Puig. He will say that in any case. But the fact that he's putting it out there, it's still makes me feel a certain sort of way about it.
I think there's a bit of Honda internal politics there, where maybe the manager of the Repsol Honda, as it always has been, team has always had an unusual amount of influence and power over the entire Honda structure within MotoGP to a way that others don't. Maio Meregali does not make decisions at Yamaha. Lynn Jarvis does. Yeah. Davide Tardozzi does not make rider decisions single-handedly at Ducati. And that has always been the way that it has been. And I think maybe Alberto is a little bit upset that Honda in Japan have started making decisions in a different way, a way that's more in line with the other manufacturers. Because we know that Zarco's deal was negotiated, I think, quite substantially negotiated when he went to Japan to win Suzuka, to win the 8R, where Puig wasn't there. So I think that it's I don't see it as a bad thing. I think I see it as an alignment of the way that things have been in other factories. It's another thing, I think, that kind of shows that Honda is moving towards a more normal MotoGP model, maybe a less arrogant MotoGP model than the one that they've had. And I think that any comment being made by Alberto is probably more to do with his own internal power struggle than it is to do with the actual rider lineup.
No, my impression is also, it's not really based on anything great, but my impression is that Luca Marini is Puig's guy. So
that is 100% the case. Sources inside the team, 100% the case.
Yeah. So that, for me, I think Zarco's future and Marini's future at Honda are potentially quite at odds, unless they find a third team somewhere, unless they bring Tech 3 in somehow or something like that happens. Yeah, I know.
Which is not impossible.
Not impossible. Yeah. Which,
there was still, we're talking about the 26 championship, or the 27 championship, 27 grid, and there is still a not zero possibility that we'll drop to 4 manufacturers.
Yeah.
Because KTM's future is still not airtight by any stretch of the imagination. So there is still a possibility that we see something different happen. And in that world, Honda would be, I think, with the resources, with the development, with where the project is, Honda are the people that would be looking to snap up another team, probably more than anyone else right now.
I agree. And
because you don't have the budget.
Handy. Yeah.
Yamaha don't necessarily have the willingness, and Ducati are already there.
No, I agree. The only thing I wanted to add, I now remember the thought that I forgot, is I think it's also indicative that something isn't quite honed, that Zarco is your priority long-term renewal and also has to wait for the new spec bike. I think you have to decide at that point what you're exactly doing. Like, if you're renewing the guy as your potential development fulcrum or whatever, then you have to prioritize him over the guys on the factory machinery, just because all of those contracts are factory contracts. But clearly something there wasn't. That's probably a symptom of that sort of power uncertainty, power struggle, or whatever it is going on there behind the scenes. And I do think, you mentioned Suzuka, not oblivious to that. Johan Zarco has contributed to 2 Suzuka 8 Hours wins for Honda. It is a major draw of Honda. I think that it treats its riders pretty good, especially when they go above and beyond.
Yes.
So if this 2-year Zarco contract then makes a bigger name, no disrespect to Johan Zarco, who is a plenty big name and has accomplished plenty, but like a superstar is convinced by that, as part of like, those guys will take care of me. They'll take care of me like they've taken care of Luca Marini with his injury. They'll take care of me. That's important. But in terms of the rider lineup, well, I think we had a good discussion there.
It's going to be really interesting to see next May if Honda's lineup isn't secured yet for 27. If there is a flurry of guys wanting to go and race at Suzuka.
Yeah.
Including Mir and a rather grudging Marini.
Poor Luca.
I mean, smashing himself at Suzuka is the best thing he did for his career because he's turned around his season since.
Oh, I would not put that to him. Portimao or Valencia. All right, next rider on the list is the poor guy whose season feels like it's been longer than most riders' seasons. It feels like there's been like 5 or 6 mini seasons in that. It feels like every single weekend is a season. Fabio Di Giannantonio, VR46 Ducati GP25 rider. Sometimes quite good, but maybe never quite as good as we hoped. And sometimes very ungood, certainly much less good than we hoped. And we're kind of in a stretch now where I don't want to say he's returned to his situation that he was, facing the MotoGP exit at Gresini, and he saved his career with the phenomenal stretch of form, including the Qatar Grand Prix win. He's not in that situation, but he is in a situation where we have to figure out what this guy is to prospective future employers that might not even necessarily be Ducati, but just all the prospective future employers. And that starts now, because this has been it's clearly not the easiest bike. One of the other guys on the Ducati GP25 has shown that. For once, it's an episode where we don't really talk about Pecco Bagnaia, even though we did in the Bulega section. Anyway, how are you feeling about the Di Giannantonio predicament?
I mean, it's very telling that there's multiple outside the top 10 performances in his results card for this year in his scorecard.
Yeah.
And they've just come because he's just turned up to a weekend and been awful.
Yeah, for sure.
And that doesn't bode well. Because it's kind of it's the DJ we've always seen. He's always been this kind of up and down, inconsistent, fast but slow figure who it just doesn't deliver consistently. And I think he's unfortunately starting to find himself in a position where he needs to be a consistent deliverer.
Yeah.
In a way that he's maybe gotten away with up until now. The minute he jumped on a GP25, then he was expected to be a much more regular fixture at the front. And it has changed absolutely nothing about his career. Part of it can be explained away by the bike.
Yes.
This year. But at the same time, I mean, he's had even less of an understanding of what's going on with the GP25 than Pecco Bagnaia, because Bagnaia at least can kind of put his finger on where the problems are. And there's weekends that Di Giannantonio has just had no explanation for his complete lack of speed or his podium speed, because they kind of alternate widely. It's not been a great year in the grand scheme of things. Like one place in the championship ahead of a Ducati rookie on a year-old bike is not great. Yeah. Is he the worst Ducati in the standings apart from Aldeguer? Yeah, he is.
I believe so, yeah.
Which is not where he should have been. He shouldn't have been behind Franco Morbidelli. And we know that he's, unfortunately for him, he's not the most well-loved character at VR46. He's still a bit of an outsider at VR46. Yeah. He's still not one of the academy. And Can you realistically see Di Giannantonio landing a MotoGP ride that's not a Ducati?
Yes, but I even can't even theorize. Like whenever I've tried to think about it, it's almost like it feels like something else has to happen where it opens up and all the contracts are in place or stuff like that. And it's not because he's bad. It's not because he hasn't proven capable at the level. It's just because you're going to look at younger guys or guys who are more dependable. And when I say dependable is maybe, I don't love the word for Digi, because in a way he is dependable. I trust him to finish races, which is not nothing. I trust him to take reasonably good care of the machinery. I've looked at my rankings sheet for the feature I do on the website after every race, and Digi is actually he has the third highest average ranking of the Ducati riders, behind only Mark and Alex, obviously. So ahead of Pecco narrowly, ahead of Fermin narrowly, and ahead of Franco Morbidelli considerably. But that's because like his floor is I'm a bit slow, but I'm still going to finish okay, rather than I'm going to have somebody off or I'm going to run 40 seconds off.
I was about to say, he doesn't do it with drama. He's not Franco Morbidelli who's making headlines for all the wrong reasons.
But at a certain point, if you're also, if you're an employer like Ducati, you want to see a guy who, if he's good on Friday, you also believe that he is going to be good on Saturday and Sunday, and that's been a major problem. I think the funny thing comparing him and Pecco Bagnaia is Bagnaia has really dropped it at some of the flow tracks, like really, really rough. And it feels like that's why they're oscillating. Giannantonio is good at the flow tracks. Bagnaia generally should be also, but he hasn't been this season. But Giannantonio is like, he goes to Phillip Island or whatever. He's obviously going to be super good, like nails there. But then you make him go to Motegi or whatever, or to Sepang, and suddenly very, very unimpressive. I believe. I mean, there's so many rounds. I have to double check myself on this one, but I think he wasn't good at any of those. Yeah, he wasn't particularly impressive. So I don't think so people will always pine a little bit for the known commodity, and at least Giannantonio has a little bit established himself as that in MotoGP. I mean, that's always a little bit nice if you're just looking for a veteran presence somewhere. You said he's not the most well-loved at VR46, but I don't think that's like a prickliness of character thing. That's just circumstances of arrival thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like as a rider to work with... No,
it's not a character thing. He's.
But there's a lot of guys in MotoGP who, especially looking at some of the Moto2 talent right now, there's going to be a bit of a scramble to hang around. And I'm a little concerned here. And these 2 rounds, like I remember him being very good at Valencia in that season that he saved his career, if I'm not mistaken also. So It's a good time. Now's a good time. We've got 3 more riders to look for in these final 2 rounds. And 2 of them are going to be for the same manufacturer. We're going to go them back to back. We're going to start with Brad Binder, the teammate of Pedro Costa at the KTM factory team, which, by the way, I think it's reflective of something that my improv intro there, like how do I describe Brad Binder? The first thing I thought of was teammate to Acosta, because that's the descriptor this year. And it wasn't last year. It wasn't for much of his KTM career, but it is this year. It's been pretty grim. Brad does a good job of putting on a brave face generally. I don't know if brave would suggest internal turmoil, and I don't think that's a thing. But he's also, he also does a good job of acknowledging, this hasn't been good enough. The primary issue is qualifying is atrocious. It's atrocious. It's no good. I mean, it's 20-0 to Acosta atrocious. That is, you can't be the anchor of anything, any manufacturing MotoGP, which will be his ambition as a guy who's achieved so much at an 0-20 clip to your teammate, because qualifying is so important these days. And some of the, he's talked about this year's bike being just less malleable to his riding style and being unintuitive, etc. But I also, the worry for me is it's not like he's suddenly become a dodgy qualifier overnight. It's more like he's managed to sort of, it's never been his strength, but he's kept it above water throughout. But now, like in a difficult season, the floor has fallen through. And you have to show prospective MotoGP teams, or at least you have to show me, I don't know, you have to show people that even when the circumstances are difficult, you can keep the level up at least there or thereabout. And he's still bringing home the points, but the qualifying is so bad that it's, his usual top 10 form is just, there's too much to do suddenly. He's able to do more than most on Sundays, but there's too much to do.
I mean, Brad Binder, Pedro Acosta has scored 5 podiums since Brno. Yeah. Every other KTM rider has scored a podium this year, has finished on the podium this year, even if Maverick lost his podium in Qatar for tire pressure rule. To count 5 Binder podiums, you have to go back as far as Silverstone 23. Because last podium was the first round of 24.
Yeah.
He's went 2 full seasons, essentially, without a podium finish. Couple of top 5s this year. Like a couple.
Yeah.
And that's it. For the guy who has had this bike built for him for years as their kind of number one lead, it's just not there. And I mean, it's KTM. Is there, it's KTM and it's Red Bull. If he survives all of 26 on the factory bike, I would be like maybe even a little bit surprised. I don't know if this is going to sustain.
But I think he is in a special place there. I think.
Although I say that, but new owners and new demands and new priorities. I think his special place doesn't exist anymore the way that it used to. I think he's in very, very thin ice. There's no way at all you can see a contract renewal happening. I cannot see it.
Yeah, I weirdly disagree there, but it's not. One of the reasons is I do think that still Brad is a floor raiser, and I apologize for using a lot of American sports terminology, but they're really good at some of that sports stuff. And I think floor raiser is just, it's a nice term to describe what Binder does, which is, even if he qualifies 16th or whatever, you can generally count that that's going to turn into 7th at the finish on Sunday. And if 7th is okay for you, if 7th is what you want, then, he'll get you 7th. But for me, the bigger reason why I do see a renewal happening is I was wrong to say that maybe the sentimental part of it will play such a big role, because it did not spare Paul Espargaro in being demoted.
Yeah.
And he should be every bit as special to the KTM, project and etc. history.
There's an argument to be made right now at this exact moment that he should be on the bike, not Binder, based on recent performances.
Yeah. And I think that's, to be fair, I think that is a healthy argument to make. But for me, Brad Binder's biggest ally right now in the rider market will be that I don't see why anybody would sign with KTM for 27 right now. So they might as well try to cultivate early renewals, hoping that the project gets signed off on with some of the guys under contract. And that's not going to be Pedro Acosta, because he's not going to sign up for that. But the other guys you can look at, and Brad is a floor raiser.
But there's a problem with that within KTM.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to sign one KTM affiliated rider for 2027 right now, would you sign A, Brad Binder, B, David Alonso, or C, Danny Holgado?
I would try for the one of those two who will accept the offer. Exactly. I think that part
that's
might be
the thing. There's KTM still have a talent stack. Those guys are still erstwhile KTM riders to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
They're still a part of that brand program. They wear the Red Bull hat, etc., etc. Even though they're not putting the money into Moto2 and Moto3 the way that they were before they spent too much money on e-bikes, nearly went bust. But they, I think that there's so much talent further down their ranks that you'd be silly to sign Binder again.
Maybe, but for me, it also depends on what the ambition will be of whoever signs off on the program.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
If
but then the weird thing is
on,
you have Acosta saying, sign me again, keep going the direction we're going in, and I will win a KTM championship in 27.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take, this is the fundamental problem with trying to do this right now here and on today, isn't it? That we don't know what the long-term ambitions for the KTM project are. We don't know what the new owners want to do with it. We don't want to know what they want to, where they want to take it. They keep saying that racing is something that needs to be cut back.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be completely honest with you. If you're an Indian manufacturer who's looking to cut back on your racing program at KTM now that you own it, you don't start with MotoGP.
No.
The first place that gets chopped is things like Supercross that are not relevant to the Indian market. No one is buying small capacity bikes in India because KTM are spending millions to win Supercross. So I think there's so much room. The Hard Enduro Championship, how relevant is that to KTM to KTM's bike sales in the developing world? It's not at all. There's so much of that stuff that I think could be pared back first. Obviously, MotoGP is going to be the big ticket, the big expense.
Yeah.
Although it's probably not that much more expensive than the Dakar program, given how much they spend and what that takes. So there's room for KTM to exist, to survive, and to possibly thrive going forward, especially with Red Bull looking to, always being there to contribute in some way or form or another.
Of course.
And with that in mind, I think they need to go into 26 with the mentality of, we're going to sign champions for 27.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
No, we're going to sign Brad Binder to keep the project afloat because he'll take an easy deal.
Given the the Bajaj Auto claim that's been doing the rounds in the media that they want to cut 50% of the overheads, across the board, including in racing, which I guess doesn't mean 50% in racing. It just means, or what the details of that we're not privy to yet, and maybe we never will be. But for me, then that sort of situation, that's your stated aim. I think you put the project on the market and see if anybody bites.
That's an option, and you look and see as we go into a new era of MotoGP, you look and see if there are people out there who don't build motorbikes who would like to buy a MotoGP project to build MotoGP bikes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we've never done that before, but that's how F1 runs. So the back half of the grid in F1 runs, right? Yeah. And I think that there's definitely leeway for that. KTM are quite lucky in that the racing department is kind of in its own building, in its own corner of the workshop. You could keep running a KTM. A lot of it is outsourced because of their relationships with outside brands like Pankel, who make a lot of stuff for them, who are KTM affiliated but not part of KTM. So you could run a KTM program fairly easily as a turnkey operation and still make competitive MotoGP bikes.
Yeah, there's probably
but anyone who buys the project will not be buying rider contracts.
Absolutely.
So then that adds another element to the mix.
Yeah, so that's still a ways away, and that will enter into it for Brad. I won't count him out yet because there's still there are some skills that he still clearly visibly has that you want to bank on. And speaking of skills that people visibly have that you want to bank on, that maybe limitations in other areas, how about we talk about the exact same rider after Brad Binder? Exact same isn't entirely right, but it's not totally wrong. Enea Bastianini.
I mean, Enea Bastianini is Brad Binder with better tire conservation.
And worse qualifying.
Even worse qualifying.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about Enea is sort of the topic of his season. You go to him every Friday, Simon, and what he tells you is, this is the same Friday I've had all season, which is like, I can't make it work quickly enough. I can't be competitive. So I can't be competitive over one lap. And then in Q1, he gets nowhere near advancing. He has to look for a wheel. Even if he does, I don't think it generally works. And then you put him into race trim and we're fine. We're okay. We're scoring okay. We're not if you've seen the way he qualifies, you would project a much lower points total. But this is, of course, Enea Bastianini. He's rediscovered a little bit that tire whispery part of it. I don't think it's as pronounced as it was at Ducati, where you just look at the lap time sheets and you go, how is this? This is is this a typo? Is this it was the wrong data inputted? Does he play around with the transponder a little bit while nobody's looking? But yeah, Bastianini, it's not been a disaster season the way it maybe was looking at certain points. And there was that brief flash of superb performance for a little bit, and now it's frittered away again, and Fridays aren't working out, so it's all comes down to single lap pace again. And there's an important background element to it that it's difficult to say from the outside how big a role it has played, but it would be negligent not to bring up, right, Simon? What's the background element? What's the crew chief? The crew chief thing.
The crew chief situation.
Sorry.
Oh man, I was like, oh wait, what? Oh yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, but the crew chief element is something that sounds like, oh man, the more I hear about it, the more it just kind of sounds self-inflicted. It's like, why would you sack your crew chief mid-season because he tells you he's leaving at the end of the season? Just why? Just take it in the chin, man. It's like cutting off your nose to spite your face, that old saying. It's incredibly disruptive mid-season, and I have very little sympathy for him for doing so. Yeah, it has been disruptive. It sounds like there's still a bit of flux going on with who's working with him next year, who's working with him, what. But sacking your crew chief mid-season, replacing him for one round, having that replacement miss rounds because of personal issues, and then having that replacement come back and immediately start looking pretty racy again, only to go then revert back to where you were with the old crew chief, is really a sign of this is not a problem with the crew chief.
Yeah.
This is a something else.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it would be too simplistic to connect it definitively. Although, again, probably the crew chief role.
I think, didn't his best result of the season come the weekend he sacked the crew chief?
I think so. Yeah,
Barcelona podium.
Yeah.
Which was the weekend that he first wasn't working with Albi because he had. Yeah, so maybe they should sack his crew chief every weekend.
Maverick Vinales tried that once, didn't he?
That is very true.
Yeah. So Alberto Girola is going to Yamaha to be crew chief for Toprak, Razgatlioglu. Yeah, am I correct? Yeah. So this is not I imagine the rider-crew chief relationship generally, ideally, has to be really, really close, or at least for some riders. Maybe others are more okay with plug and play, but for some, they really need that person. They're rock. And for Enea Bastianini, it is true that sort of Giroud Bola has overseen all of his best stretches. Mm-hmm. So, the Gresini Ducati, he was his crew chief there. And then at Factory Ducati, I mean, obviously the injury is a big part of it, but he did not have Giroud Bola, did he? Giroud Bola went to KTM, which, going from some of Bastianini's public comments already, like, that's part of what makes this bite more, is like, you're leaving me for a second time. You don't trust that we can do something special here. I get it from a human point of view. But
also you shouldn't need your work colleagues to love you.
That feels very pointed.
No. But I'm differentiating that between like and love.
Yeah, no.
If you go and work on another podcast, I'm still going to stay Ludi in the paddock and not think that you've broken my heart and betrayed me. It's a bit of a weird relationship, and like you say, some riders are far more susceptible to it than others. I mean, look at Marc Marquez, who worked with one crew chief his entire career, won everything with him, got told he couldn't take him with him to go somewhere else, and was like, okay, bye. Went for a year, won everything, won a lot of things, and was told he couldn't take his crew chief with him, and was like, okay, bye. And this is how it is, So obviously there are certain riders that work in different ways in that sense, but I think maybe Enea could do take a little bit of Mark's homework.
I feel slightly better about Bastianini's position than Binder's, just because you have the sort of the first year.
Yeah,
little bit of leeway.
He's shown that the ceiling is higher than Binder this year.
Yes, and even also age.
Yeah, and age.
Yeah. So
the worst thing that ever happened to Brad Binder this year was the instigation of the mandatory national anthem ceremony.
How come?
Because now he has to go to the front of the grid every weekend, take off his hat, and everyone realizes how bald he is, and it makes him look really old.
Jesus Lordy. To be fair, I don't remember him ever having like a luscious head of hair.
Okay. Super bald.
Well, nothing wrong with that. Looks good on him. I just want to say that definitely that will not enter into.
How would you know? You never see him without a hat. See, this.
I can envision it, so I must have seen it. I mean, I should say, like, I'm standing host. I did not bring this up. This is important for the record. The detour into Bold Quarter was not me.
And you can't see this because it's in our Slack chat, but I'm now sending Val pictures of before and after Brad Binder just to make him laugh while he's supposed to be hosting the podcast.
This is great. Anyway, let's go into the next and final rider. I really struggled. I decided 5 would be nice for. Man, I am distracted by those pictures. Yeah. Still looks good. Still looks great. The 5th and final rider on this list, I really struggled to come up with a good name for it because it feels like the 4 we picked are the really obvious 4. I think you could go Franco Morbidelli, but
I think that's more obvious than.
I think it's a very brief detour. I think he gets way too much crap at this point, just generally. I think like the meme rider status I think is too much. Like I'm not happy with that.
But if he retains his spot another year, it'll be because of VR46 and not because of course. Talent.
Yeah. Although but he's not been
awful, and he's not been the absolute bully that everyone regularly accuses him of being. But he also hasn't been good enough. I think,
agree.
Given the bike he's on.
I'm happy about this Franco Morbidelli defense corner that still ended up his on the bike performance. Quite good the most recent weekend. But the name I went for is Ogura, not because so much is at stake really, but just you want to, like, second year is going to be important. You want to, for me, this is kind of already the start of the second year. We're sort of getting there. Sepang was good, but I expected a little more in terms of like how quickly he would have begun the weekend. And I think he also expected a little bit more. Listening to him, it's just, that's more his territory, isn't it? Those sort of Southeast Asian tracks. With
I think there's maybe a little bit of bias in that, because I think that he is such a slow learner, and that what we've actually seen is really good performances of tracks that he's been to, or that others haven't been to very much. So like he was super, super strong in Thailand because it was his first time it was his first weekend, but he tested there. He was good at Sepang this year because he tested there at the start of the year. And then he was good at places like Argentina because others weren't there very much. So he was on a bit more level footing. So I think a year 2 Ogura will be much more consistent than year 1 Ogura.
Yes,
a
sure.
year 2 Ogura hopefully won't get injured twice and lose a big chunk of results because of it and a big chunk of momentum.
Yeah,
because I think that Silverstone in particular kind of drained a bit of momentum out of him.
Yes.
So I think that I think he's in a pretty good position. He just needs a solid year.
Yeah. Look, let's make this clear. Not a pinch of panic or anything of the sort. It's more that on the evidence of Thailand, Ogura was a key player on next year's. On the 27 MotoGP rider market, and to be that again, it needs to start this weekend. For me, it's not to say that like his long-term future in MotoGP is in jeopardy. That's kind of true for almost like 80% of the grid at any given time, but there's a lot of build-up already of proven performance that will keep him in the mix, and the fact that people like the way he works, people like the way he approaches weekends. He is not consistently fast, but he is dependable. You trust him. Mm-hmm. I trust him. I trust him when he's in races. When he's running 13th, I trust him to get to 10th. It's not nothing for a rookie for me. Aldeguer, bless him. I do not trust to finish in that position when he's running there. I do not trust him to stay on the bike, which Fermin has his own qualities. This is not a bash against Fermin. Fermin is more the archetypical rookie. Ogura has been very slow to start weekends, but on Sunday, he kind of looks like a slightly disappointing veteran, which is a compliment. He kind of looks like one of the KTM guys for me, which again, that's a compliment.
I get that.
I'm interested to see how much you can eliminate those slow starts and whether that can already start these weekends, or sort of whether the buildup of experience from the prior season. Also, he's putting more time between himself right now and the sort of the high speed crashes that, by his own admission, put the fear of MotoGP into him a little bit, that he's really struggled to shake off. It's, again, this is a guy for whom, like, he's not the ideal pick, because for me the off season matters more, but I want to see something. It is 2 races, so it always is meaningful in a certain way. And I don't think anybody's panicking or anything like that. I don't think anybody at the Trackhouse leadership is unhappy, are they? There's no such indication.
No.
How are you feeling for 27 with him? Like,
with Ogura, the biggest problem I see with Ogura now is that the kind of the route to a factory Aprilia ride isn't there the way it once was.
No, it is not.
Because I think Bezzecchi is going to be a long-term Aprilia stable.
Yep.
And I think the bike is good enough that if they can't retain Jorge Martin, then they're going to go hunting for a Pecco Bagnaia or a Fabio Quartararo.
Yeah.
Because the bike is good enough. So I think that kind of limits Ogura's options unless he has a very good year. But I like Ogura remaining at Trackhouse for 27 and 28 will be the least surprising announcement, I think, of the season.
Can I do a stupid hypothetical for you in terms of the factory Aprilia ride?
Go on.
Let's say they tell you Ogura or Alex Marquez.
Alex Marquez.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm also there.
Because Aprilia need results. Aprilia are at the point now where they
I also honestly, genuinely, like the conversation we had about Honda, there's sort of, I didn't want to put it out publicly, but why not? Might as well.
Ogura has to be, if he was the sort of person to feel regrets, and he's not, because he's a robot. If he were the sort of person to feel regrets, he probably feels a little bit regretful right now that he didn't take the seat that then went to Chantra, to Samke Chantra, because Ogura in that seat would have got the development upgrades that Zarco is getting, that Chantra isn't getting, and would not have performed significantly differently to how he's performing right now in a bike that actually is far more naturally suited to his riding style.
Maybe, but there wouldn't have been the Buram, I think.
No, there wouldn't. Yeah. But then you don't know what there would have been by the time we got to Motegi.
Yeah. But I'm just like, if I'm Honda bosses, and I mean, this is also like part of the 13 conversation, etc. I'm thinking, unless there's something acrimonious happened behind the scenes, and there's no real indication. It was like, maybe Honda would not have taken it easy, but from there's all sorts of like, it's business as usual. And if they give me a reason to come back, I'll be happy to come back. honestly, if he does give him a reason to come back, I would want it as a Japanese manufacturer.
Yeah.
I think like as part of a path to a homegrown star, like that should have some weight. And this is MotoGP, still like MotoGP's best chance at a Japanese star in a long, long while. And who's the name?
He would also be a suitable replacement for Jack Miller at Pramac Yamaha, because there's more than one Japanese manufacturer.
I wish there was like a Real Madrid Barcelona thing between Yamaha and Honda, where it's like
so that they could poach him and create some drama.
Yeah. So it's like, you go out in front of the grandstand and like boo you and like pelt you with stuff for changing those. I mean, we're missing a little bit of that between those two potentially, even though they've had their share, as we've learned with MotoGP Revisited 2015. Yeah. Listen to the final episode of that as part of our free week at the Race Members Club. Done great. Super proud of myself. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. Simon, thank you for making time for this today, even though, I mean, that is our gig.
I mean, we should be more happy that my voice made it through it, because I'm celebrating the end of the flyaways with my traditional chest infection. Yeah. So we've survived.
Your voice has held up much better than what my voice was sounding through that month-long chest infection.
I'm in quite a bit of pain right now.
Right. Well, what can you do? Anyway, c'est la vie. Get well soon, and we'll speak to you guys from Portimao.